100 State House tenants were booted out of their homes over a flawed meth testing policy. Phil Twyford is the Minister for Housing and he joins us now. Kia ora, good morning, Minister.
Morena.
So we have 55 people who have actually been paid out, do we?
Yeah, the payments were processed on Friday and they should go through into people's accounts today, I think. And as you said, there's another 92 people whose eligibility has been confirmed. And as soon as there's been an offer and acceptance, which I doubt will take very long, those payments will be processed too.
And how many payments are you expecting to make in this entire process? We were talking about potentially 800 people who were evicted wrongly from their homes.
It's a little hard to predict that right now. As you say, 800 people who were adversely affected in some way. Some of those people were evicted, some had their tenancies terminated, others lost their possessions, others were suspended from public housing. Housing New Zealand has had contact with about, I think, 295 people. Some of those people have come forward in response to all of the Housing New Zealand publicly, urging people to come forward if they were affected in this way. And others were actively tracked down by Housing New Zealand and found.
Yeah, so that still leaves about 500 people who may be in this situation and haven't been contacted yet, let alone being given any money. What assurances do you have that justice will be done for them?
We're going to do our best to put this right, Guyan. This was a debacle over a number of years. We've fronted up and said, look, it wasn't good enough. The meth standard was faulty. Housing New Zealand's zero tolerance policy was wrong in the circumstances, and a lot of people got hurt. And Housing New Zealand is doing its best to track people down and make sure that if they are eligible for assistance through this payments program, that they get the assistance that they deserve. So we're doing everything we can to put this right.
What are the barriers to tracing and finding these people?
I'm not sure, Guyan. I know that Housing New Zealand, they've had a special team set up to do this work over the last couple of months, and they've been assisted by the Ministry of Social Development in terms of the data about who is affected and where they might be. But it's been
I'm just wondering whether it's because some of them are homeless now.
Well, I don't know that. I can't answer that question. But they are. I know that Housing New Zealand is working overtime to try to track people down. We really want to put this right. This was a huge failure across government at multiple levels, and I can't underline how much regret we feel for what happened for people who were hurt through this process.
Can we talk about the quantum of money? I understand the average payment is $7,700, just over that. How is it worked out how much you pay these people? What is the formula?
So it's based on reimbursing people for actual material harm. So people who lost their tenancies. There were some people who were told that they had to throw out all their possessions because of this hysteria about third-hand meth residue contamination. Quite wrongly, no scientific basis. People's possessions were thrown out on the street and they lost them. So it's... in all these cases, in Housing New Zealand are looking at the actual material losses that people sustained, whether they were made homeless or lost their possessions.
Okay, but I'm just trying to get to the point of how this is worked out. Like, if I had that much property destroyed, what do I do? Do I show you my receipts and you pay me up to how much? I mean, how does it work?
I can't tell you the detail about people showing their receipts, Guyan, but what Housing New Zealand are doing is working on a case-by-case basis through all of these instances with people to work out.
Is there a cap, Minister?
No, I don't believe there is a cap. So you mentioned correctly that the average, I think, is about $7,500 for this first tranche of 55 payments. But I'm advised that the maximum payment that's been paid out so far is around $15,000.
So there's not a cap as far as you understand it?
No, I don't believe there is.
And it's for material possessions only?
It's for possessions, but also the costs that people incurred. When people lost their tenancies at a time when the housing crisis was really starting to bite. Many people ended up, at the time, there were some people who ended up essentially being made homeless. They then ended up staying in a motel paid for by Ministry of Social Development at a time when, under the former government, the cost of those motel payments were being racked up as debt. So people incurred debts, and some people paid some of those debts back, so there were costs in that regard as well.
Is there any time frame by which people must get in touch with you? Sometimes you find that these things, we do a story in a few weeks' time or something, that there's been a cut-off date and people haven't been able to apply for it. Can you tell us about whether there are any parameters along those lines?
There's no cut-off time, and if I can just urge people, if there's anybody who was affected in the meth fiasco where they were evicted or lost their tenancies from Housing New Zealand, where they lost possessions or were adversely affected, please come forward to Housing New Zealand, and the organisation will do its utmost to make sure that any losses are properly reimbursed.
Thank you very much for your time this morning. Do appreciate it. Phil Twyford, who's the Minister of Housing, talking about those payments to people who were wrongly evicted under the meth testing regime. Be interested in your feedback.